It's time for another WrestlePlanet news update, as the truth behind the controversial Starrcade 97 finish has been revealed. A released WWE Superstar has claimed that NXT wrestlers watched Dynamite during the Wednesday Night Wars, and Malakai Black has revealed the details behind his AEW debut. All that and more coming up in today's video, but first, let's take a look at the ratings for Raw and AEW from this past week, as there's some interesting things to discuss. We won't be talking about SmackDown today, as the show is scheduled for tonight and hasn't happened yet. Let's start with Monday Night Raw, which drew the lowest average viewership in show history. Raw was down 6.24% from last week, which saw them drop from 1.57 million to 1.472 million viewers. This is lower than the previous worst drawing episode, which occurred on December 14th, 2020. In terms of the key demo, this week's show was tied with that December show, drawing 0.41 in the 18 to 49 demographic, which is a joint all-time low in this regard. In terms of AEW Dynamite, this week they made a return to the road with the Road Rager special live from Miami, Florida. This special edition of Dynamite was expected to bring a boost to the ratings, but we in fact saw the opposite. Whilst it's not a major decrease, Dynamite dropped by 1.4% from 883,000 viewers to 870,000 viewers. The all-important key demo also saw a drop of 5.7%, down from 0.35 to a 0.33. AEW have 3 more Dynamite specials scheduled for the next 3 weeks, with 2 weeks of Fyter Fest culminating with the Fight for the Fallen. It will be interesting to track how this affects the ratings going forward. On a previous news video, we discussed a report from Fightful that WWE had interest in Impact Wrestling star Moose after his contract was set to expire. This is now being confirmed by the man himself, who spoke of WWE's interest in signing him in a recent interview on the Mina's House podcast. When Moose was asked about a potential WWE run, he responded, "Never say never, right? I've had chances to go there and had an opportunity to go there not too long ago, but turned it down to stay with Impact. I had an opportunity to leave to go to WWE, but I just felt like right now Impact was better for me with what they offered and the schedule and how I'm being used. We'll see what happens with WWE in the next couple of years." Moose then confirmed that his Impact contract is indeed 2 years long, which was also reported, and appeared open to a future move to WWE when his contract expires. When his deal ends, Moose will be 39, which brings into question whether WWE would still see as much value in him, but I guess we'll find out in a couple of years. Next up, we're going to go to a rare WCW story, and we need to go back to 1997 and the most important pay-per-view in WCW history, Starrcade 97. For those unaware, the main event of the show saw the ultimate showdown between the icon Sting and the villainous Hollywood Hulk Hogan, who was the leader of the New World Order. The match was built up over months after Sting had returned to the company as the Crow character to take out the NWO, who had poisoned WCW. The payoff was to be a Sting World Championship victory at Starrcade, but only after a convoluted finish. The original plan was to have Hogan pin Sting in the match, but only through a fast count from NWO's own referee Nick Patrick. This would then lead to Bret Hart, who was coming off the back of his jump from WWF following the Montreal Screwjob, heading down to the ring to demand the match was restarted, ultimately leading to a Sting victory. This was to be the crown on top of the entire NWO Sting angle, but unfortunately for Sting and for the fans, the fast count was instead a regular count, which made the match restart seem very strange. Fans have theorized that this was a deliberate move from Hogan, telling Patrick to do a regular count instead of the fast one to devalue Sting's ultimate victory. And this is something that would be typical with the usual Hulk Hogan backstage politics. This now seems to have been confirmed after the referee Nick Patrick himself revealed what happened on the day of the match, and he recently spoke with the Stories with Briscoe and Bradshaw podcast and said, So Eric Bischoff got there early, pulled me aside and told me what the finish was. A basic, easy finish. Then he disappeared and was gone. I never saw him again until the next show somewhere. Then Hulk comes up to me, gives me basically the same finish, but wants me to do a real nice, slow, normal count. I'm like, okay. Sting comes up to me with the same finish, but wants me to do a fast count, so I'm like, okay, well, let me find out from management what they want. Patrick then confirmed that he looked around the arena for management but was unable to find anyone. This story confirms the age-old theory that Hulk Hogan indeed sabotaged the finish to the infamous event. Obviously, the finish should have just been a clean Sting win without a match restart, but that doesn't work for Hogan, brother. And next up, on June 25th, WWE released NXT Superstar Killian Dane, also known as Big Damo, as part of the 4th round of cuts since the pandemic began. Dane recently spoke with Sportskeeda to discuss his time in WWE and revealed that during the recent Wednesday night wars between WWE's Black and Gold brand and All Elite Wrestling, the NXT locker room would often watch AEW Dynamite whilst both shows were still in progress. Damo revealed, I think people would love for me to say it was this rivalry or whatever else, but the truth is, when we were going head to head, if they had a particularly good match, we'd be backstage in the locker room, we'll be like, oh, such and such, let's see that. A lot of them were our friends, as is with a lot of the guys on the roster. Dane then expanded on his thoughts on the quote rivalry between the two shows, dismissing that there is any legitimate heat between the two parties, and noted, so yeah, sure, there is a rivalry so far as we wanted to do the best we could. We wanted to put on the best matches and we felt that we had an incredible roster at NXT. There is not one person there who'd have gone F them or anything like that because I shared locker rooms with maybe at least 50% of that roster. In fact, I'm probably underselling that. I'd say I've been at shows with about 75% of that roster. Some of the guys I even trained with or people who I have been trained by myself, are on that roster. So for us, there was a professional rivalry so far as nobody wants to lose or anything like that, but at the same time, we knew it was great for the industry. And this train of thought is very different from the way most fans see things, with tribalism between AEW and WWE fans being at an extreme level. The truth is, the wrestlers see it as a competitive rivalry rather than a bitter one, and see the benefits of multiple companies with more places for their friends to work. And quickly, just before we continue, make sure you scroll down and drop a like and subscribe with notifications turned on so you don't miss any upcoming wrestling content as we head towards 20,000 subscribers. But now that you've done that, let's get on with the rest of the video. Following his AEW debut this past Wednesday, Aleister Black, who now goes by the name of Malakai Black, appeared on his wife Zelina Vega's Twitch stream to discuss the inner workings of the surprise and how it was kept from leaking. He said, "It was a hassle to keep under wraps. Once I found out that my contract was a tad different than the usual, I had came up with this idea. I had already made the character movie and I came up with this idea and the company liked it, so we ran with it. It was all very last second. I feel like in modern day wrestling, there are few moments to make a genuine surprise and get people to look your way. For me to sneak in, not be seen, dip and dive so they wouldn't see me, that took some skill." It's worth noting that Fightful Select on the night did report that there was some talk amongst AEW talent that Black would be appearing at some point, but it was never confirmed that he was in fact in Miami. Black went on to discuss the creative behind the appearance, which saw a blackout during the Cody Rhodes QT Marshall strap match, with commentary brushing it off as a technical issue. Later in the night, another blackout occurred, this time leading to Black's debut. Malakai has said that this was his idea and added, "I pitched the idea and said, what if we do multiple blackouts throughout the show and insinuate the technical difficulties? Commentary did a great job getting that over and it came off great. It feels good when I'm in a place where my creative mind can be utilized instead of stopped and controlled and knowing that things weren't going to work." He also briefly spoke about a potential match in New Japan Pro-Wrestling and said that he's not sure if he can work there. Whilst he says this, I'm personally taking this as a confirmation that a future appearance will happen for the Japanese promotion, as I'm sure he'd know one way or the other whether it was allowed or not. Yesterday, AEW finally posted the Malaka Black is All Elite graphic and have released his first official t-shirt. And before you go, make sure you check out my list of the 10 hottest free agents in wrestling today. And one of them is no longer a free agent, that being Malaka Black.